Imagine if every human saw a completely unique version of color. If what you call blue was someone else's red, and no one ever realized because language taught everyone to agree on names, not experiences. The world would still look colorful, but every mind would live inside a private universe of shades that no one else could ever truly see. At first, nothing would seem different. People would still call the sky blue, leaves green, and blood red. But the meaning of those colors would exist only inside each person's perception. No two sunsets would ever truly match. Every artist, every designer, every child with a box of crayons would be describing a world only they could see. Individuality would reach new heights. Every person would carry a private version of beauty, an exclusive way to experience emotion. Art would become even more personal. Every painting, every flower, every horizon would belong only to the viewer's mind. People might value expression over accuracy, knowing there was no single correct version of color. It would make creativity limitless, freeing humans from uniform perception. Empathy might deepen too. We'd realize how much of life depends on unseen differences. The simple fact that someone else's green could be our orange would remind us that perspective defines reality. Communication would grow softer, less absolute. The idea of truth would shift, not as one color, but as a spectrum of coexistence. But confusion would rise. Design, safety, and communication could collapse. Traffic lights, medical signals, warning signs all rely on shared color recognition. If red didn't trigger the same visual response in everyone, chaos could follow. Society might abandon color codes entirely, replacing them with symbols or sound. Artistic collaboration would become almost impossible. A painter's masterpiece might look dull to one viewer and violent to another. Fashion, branding, and beauty standards would lose meaning. People might argue over shades that can never be compared. On a deeper level, trust in perception would erode. If we can't even agree on color, what about everything else? Emotion, morality, memory. Maybe all of it depends on individual lenses. Humans would question whether reality is shared at all, or if each of us lives in an isolated simulation built by our senses. Technology would rush to compensate. Scientists would invent devices that translate perception, tools that let one person see through another's eyes. But even those translations would be imperfect, filtered through language and expectation. The mystery would never be fully solved. Ultimately, such a world would teach a strange lesson that our senses are not truth, only interpretation. Colors, feelings, and meanings would exist not in light but in consciousness. And maybe, in realizing that everyone's rainbow is different, humanity would finally learn that disagreement is not distortion, it's diversity. If colors were different for everyone, humanity would eventually reach a quiet breaking point, not of science but of trust. The discovery that no two people shared the same visual world would change how we communicate, how we define truth, and how we connect emotionally. At first, society would try to adapt. Governments might create a universal perception test mapping how each person interprets the color spectrum. Standard blue would no longer mean a wavelength. It would mean whatever your brain assigns to the frequency of skylight. But even that system would fail because the issue isn't in the light, it's in the mind. Art galleries would fill with confusion. Critics would argue endlessly over tones they could never verify. Some would stop trying to describe color altogether, replacing color names with emotional codes: soothing, warm, loud, heavy. The art world would shift from visual accuracy to emotional resonance. Paintings would be judged not by what they look like, but by how they make people feel. Education would change too. Children would grow up learning that perception is relative. Teachers would say, "You don't see the same red I do, and that's okay." Classrooms would replace color wheels with empathy charts, exercises, and understanding that your version of reality is not everyone's truth. But beneath this progress, tension would simmer. People would start to doubt each other in subtle ways. Lovers might argue about sunsets, not because they disagree on color, but because they realize they'll never see the same moment the same way. The idea of shared experience would fracture. Science would struggle to find unity in a world of fractured perception. Physicists would still measure light objectively, but philosophers would remind them that measurement doesn't equal experience. The debate between external reality and internal perception would dominate modern thought. Is the world really colorful, or do we paint it inside our minds? Religion and spirituality would evolve too. Some would claim the uniqueness of color proves that the soul personalizes reality, that each person carries a fragment of divine interpretation. Others would argue it proves isolation, that consciousness traps everyone in a private universe of illusions. In such a world, technology would become humanity's translator. Augmented reality lenses would let people see through another's eyes, adjusting colors based on neural feedback. Couples would exchange color maps as romantic gifts, a way to glimpse the world through each other's perception. But the experience would be unsettling. Looking through someone else's lens might make the world look alien, a reminder that love, art, and even memory exist only inside perspective. Society would gradually split between two mind states. In a world where colors differ for every mind, humans would be forced to confront the ultimate question: what is reality? If no two people truly see the same world, then every agreement about truth, beauty, or value becomes subjective. Society would begin to rely less on objective certainty and more on empathy, interpretation, and shared intention. The pros of this reality are profound. Creativity would explode. Every object, every landscape, every piece of clothing could exist in infinite variations simultaneously. Artists would no longer compete for approval based on correct perception. Instead, they would explore infinite personal realities. Every human interaction would carry the thrill of discovering new perspectives, subtle shades, and previously unimagined combinations. The mundane would become miraculous because the universe would never appear the same twice to anyone. Philosophically, humanity might evolve toward radical empathy. Understanding that your neighbor's blue is your red could foster humility. Communication would shift from asserting facts to sharing experience. Language itself might become more poetic, symbolic, or emotional, a tool to convey sensation rather than definition. People might measure their lives not in achievements but in how vividly they perceive, interpret, and appreciate the world's infinite palettes. Yet the cons would be equally profound. Shared culture could fracture. Symbols, flags, and signs could mislead unintentionally. Traffic lights, warnings, and medical signals might fail because color perception varies too widely. Education, advertising, and commerce would need constant translation systems. Humans might develop anxiety or distrust, questioning whether what they perceive is real or illusory. Relationships could strain under the pressure of never fully sharing even basic sensory experiences. Science, too, would face existential challenges. Measuring light would not suffice. Perception would become the primary frontier. Physics and neurology would intertwine with philosophy, and the distinction between objective and subjective reality might blur irreversibly. Technology could attempt to map perception, but the infinite diversity of experience would ensure some mysteries remain unsolvable. On a deeper level, this world would illuminate a paradox: truth exists, but not in a single form. Every person experiences a valid reality unique to their consciousness. Beauty is not universal, emotion is not shared. Memory and sensation are filtered through infinite spectrums. Humanity would be forever negotiating between individuality and connection, learning to appreciate difference without seeking uniformity.